This is Dubs OT.
Can't wait.
With John Dickinson.
Hey, JD, what you up to, sugar? Long time no talk to.
On KNBR 104.5 and 680. Streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
Garland 3 off iron. And Mitchell, that may count for window dressing. No, they're waving it off. So the final is 99-94. The best win of the season right here. The Warriors moved to 12-12, 1-1 on the road trip. And after the loss to Philly, the spirit it took to come back and win this game with everybody sitting out, this is going to pay dividends down the road for this team.
I think they showed themselves. They can compete and win these types of games.
Well, I don't want to be negative. I don't want to just start right off the bat and say I'm going to disagree with Kalena, but I don't think it's the win of the year, but by any stretch. I mean, this team's got win against Denver, the couple of the wins in San Antonio when Steph Curry went off. So it's not the win of the year by any stretch, but it is a very important win and a win the Warriors desperately needed. How many times have we talked about it? As we welcome in here, Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. 808 KNBR is the number. I know it says just Dubs, but it's Dubs OT. So I don't know. We got Cole LaPelt in for Kyle Haar. I don't know if Cole can change that up or not, but we flip-flopped it this morning because it just Dubs. But it is Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader in the aftermath of the Warriors' 99-94 win at Cleveland. And it was a huge win for Golden State. We talk about it a ton. Other teams throughout the league get wins like this. Just almost by default, other teams get wins like this. They just find a way. And look, the Warriors deserve a ton of credit. They competed their asses off tonight. Steve Kerr gets a ton of credit for a number of reasons that we're going to get into here over the course of the next 90 minutes. Including the insertion of Pat Spencer into the starting lineup. Ride the hot hand on a night where you're not going to have Steph Curry or Jimmy Butler or Draymond Green or Al Horford or DeAnthony Melton or Seth Curry. Am I leaving anybody out? 10 healthy and available bodies for Golden State tonight, and those 10 get the job done against a team that's not quite playing at the level the Cavaliers are playing at last year when they were number one seed in the Eastern Conference, but a team that surely you would figure on paper would have enough to beat the Warriors tonight. And they were awful tonight, but the Warriors made them awful. The Warriors competed defensively and put pressure on them and moved the basketball. And it was really the Pat Spencer show in a lot of ways. He winds up being not only the leading scorer for Golden State with 19 points, but it winds up being a career high for Pat Spencer as he scores 19 points and the Warriors find a way. We talked about it this morning on Just Dubs. Can we get, can the Warriors get one of these games to where they can get back to 500 either tonight or tomorrow? And we'll see what happens tomorrow now because they may get some of the regulars back in the game tomorrow at Chicago. It was almost as if they didn't want Jimmy and Draymond and DeAnthony Melton to play, both ends of the back-to-back, knowing that you've got the 4 days off and the 2 games in 10 days coming up. But all in all, just a great win and a much-needed win, a stabilizing kind of a win because now this team is not going to be 11-14 going into the 3 days off. They at worst are going to be 12-13, which is still obviously a major disappointment in the grand scheme of things, but they have a chance now to get to 13-12 if they can win in Chicago, second of the back-to-back, potentially with some reinforcements coming tomorrow. So 808 KNBR is the number, 415-808-5627. To jump in and join the conversation. And honestly, everybody I think tonight who played for the Warriors deserves a lot of credit. There were different points in the game, and I'm looking at it now. They did end up with a couple of minuses, but it was well into the second half. Everybody who played for the Warriors was a plus.
which goes to show that everybody in their own way contributed in this game. And I think you really can run through all 10 and say, hey, this player made a play here or there or did something that shows up on the stat sheet that helped the Warriors get the job done. But if you want to jump in and join the conversation, again, 415-808-5627. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line is open here on this Saturday night. And the best YouTube chat in sports with our buddy Cole LaPelt in our Daly City studios is off and running. So we'll get to some Cole's clicks here coming up between now and whenever we decide to close up shop here on this Saturday night, included. So Cole, you just do a little test run. You want? Let's throw one out.
That was an accident. Let's roll. Why not?
That's all right. Let's throw. Our guy, Dr. P. How does the coaching staff not realize that Spencer is a better point guard than Podziemski? And why did it take him so damn long? Well, okay. You know what? I probably shouldn't have gone there. Because really, that's not the conversation tonight. Like, that's not the conversation. The conversation right now, and you can make the case that Pat is more of a true point guard than Podziemski. And Pat is absolutely playing better basketball than Podziemski. But this is not some no-brainer that there's a reason Pat Spencer, and I can't believe you're making me do this, Dr. P. Right off the top of the show, you're making me skew to like the negative, to where it's like I got to try to almost put down Pat Spencer. I'm not going to put down Pat Spencer. But there's a reason Pat Spencer's struggled to be, in the NBA at this point, and Brandon Podziemski was a first-round pick. Now, that being said, Pat Spencer's playing better basketball than Brandon Podziemski right now. Right now, Pat Spencer's the better player. He's playing better. Podziemski's in his own head. Podziemski's not playing well, all those kinds of things. And so that does lead into kind of where I wanted to start, which was the big decision pregame. And look, when you only have 10, it's, everybody's going to play. But, Steve Kerr gets credit for making the change. And we talked about it on Just Dubs this morning. Make the change. Play the hot hand. And right now, Pat Spencer is the hot hand. We don't know if Pat Spencer's a better player than Podziemski, but right now he is. Like, it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Like, we don't know, in the grand scheme of things, is Guy Santos a better player than Jonathan Kuminga? I would say no. Believe it or not. I know I'm going to shock people with that statement, but right now Guy Santos is a better basketball player than Jonathan Kuminga. Right now, Guy Santos helps the Warriors win more than Jonathan Kuminga. And it's the same thing that's going on with Pat Spencer and Brandon Podziemski. So first and foremost, give Steve credit for going to Pat Spencer over Podziemski. And this is not some move that should have been made 5 games ago and Podziemski should be never playing and Pat Spencer should be in. This is not that. This is right now, as both players are playing, Spencer is playing better, and so Spencer gets the nod. And this team's in major need, at least coming into this game, of a boost. And Spencer has earned the opportunity here with Steph Curry out to get a chance to start because he sparked the team against Oklahoma City and the big 22-point comeback. And he sparked the team against Philadelphia and the 24-point comeback that probably should have resulted in a win that ultimately didn't. So Kerr gets credit for going to Pat Spencer. He ends up starting Buddy Hield, Will Richard, Jonathan Kuminga. He threw Kuminga a bone tonight in the starting lineup. And I think the starting lineup, Pat Spencer aside, was as much about trying to balance shooting and playmaking and scoring ability with, you have 10 players. And so everybody's going to have to play. And you're basically coming up with a group of 5 you like together at the beginning, and then another group of 5 that is going to have to play a significant chunk of the game together. And then you figure it out as you go who your best 5, 6, 7 players on that night are. And those are going to be the guys that wind up playing the most if you're in position to win the game, as the Warriors were down the stretch to ultimately prevail. So in the grand scheme of things, like when you only have 10 players and you're without, 6 of your top 8 rotation players probably in this game, you just find a group that you can, starting group hadn't played together all year long. The bench group probably hadn't played together that much all year long either. But the one thing that I don't think anybody would question is the fact that Pat Spencer earned to start tonight over Brandon Podziemski, and he earned to start tomorrow night over Brandon Podziemski, with Steph Curry obviously still going to be out. Now, what changes in the big picture? How does this all work? And that is one of the questions I want to get into tonight in the YouTube chat and also at 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. We'll kind of run through the game, and if you want to give us your game balls from tonight or your biggest play tonight, obviously Pat Spencer's going to be right there at the top of the list. But the other bigger picture question is, how does this work among the guys who are contributing right now for the Warriors? And if Jimmy and Draymond and Horford and Melton and all those guys are available to play tomorrow. Like, how do you cobble together a rotation for the one game tomorrow? Who's in, who's out? So I have some thoughts on that we'll get to. But, yeah, I mean, the first quarter was pretty ugly again. Kind of the same old story for the Warriors tonight as it was in Philadelphia, although not as ugly. They weren't down 30-10 at the end of the first quarter because they were grinding defensively, and Cleveland was just horrific. Could not buy a 3, 0 for 10 from 3 in the first quarter. But it was, I think, effort on the Warriors' part and then the inability to make a shot on the Cavs' part. But my goodness, you get 12 points in the first quarter after you score 10 in the first quarter on Thursday night. And it was basically 5 in the first, 4 or 5 minutes. And then they had 5 in about a minute. And then they had 2 over the last basically half, maybe a little bit more than half of the quarter. More turnovers than made field goals. First quarter was ugly. And you're thinking, damn, maybe Cleveland can win this game 90-80 if they have to. But the game flipped in the second quarter. And I thought it was interesting. Warriors found themselves down 18-12 and then 23-14. But it was an 8-0 run that eventually would turn into a 27-8 run for the Warriors. And it was a lot of ball movement and cutting. And Kerr started the second quarter with the same guys who started the game. And then Guy Santos came in, and Moses Moody came in, and Pat Spencer was in foul trouble. But when Pat was able to get back out on the court in the second quarter, it was him and Quentin Post, and the ball was moving, and guys were cutting, and Guy Santos was doing his hitting threes, putting the moves on. And the Warriors very quickly went from down 23-14 to up 31-26. And it winds up being a 27-8 run. Warriors pushed the lead up to 41-31. And it all told, it winds up being the quarter that won the Warriors this game was the second quarter. Quarter that wins the Warriors this game, second quarter, 33-18 in the second quarter. After the 18-12 first quarter, 9 of the 10 Warrior players who were available scored in the first half. And it was Pat Spencer making stuff happen. Game high plus 10 at that point. But your 3 leading scorers at halftime, Cole, I kid you not, do you remember the 3 leading scorers were for the Warriors at halftime? I'm going to tell you. Quentin Post had 10.
I was going to say Post, yeah.
Buddy Hield had 9. And Guy Santos had 6. So it were those 3 plus Pat Spencer, and you had a little bit of Moody, and you had some GP2. I thought tonight, is not the night to crush Kuminga or Podziemski the way we did the other night. Although, again, Podziemski, both of them are clearly still struggling. I will say this. I think Kuminga's intent was a little better tonight. He was rebounding. He was flying around. The offense speaks for itself. He was 1 for 10. But he did have 7 rebounds and 3 assists. And Podziemski was 4 for 9. And Podziemski had some big buckets in the second half and was basically part of the final 2-3 minute lineup. But he had some moments tonight that just still made you go, my God. So I think Podziemski still at this point is much more salvageable than is Kuminga. But I give Kerr credit for going away from Podziemski in the starting lineup and just giving it to Pat, because Pat's earned it, and you need that infusion. And yeah, Florida Dubs fan, no complaints with Kerr tonight. Yeah, no complaints with Kerr tonight. But you know what? It was feeling with a couple of minutes left like no complaints with Kerr tonight until they lose, and then everybody's going to complain about Buddy this or GP2 that or TJD or like, give me a freaking break. You're talking about, look at the 10 players that played tonight and look at who you're playing against. Just because you get a lead doesn't mean if you don't win a game, your coach bungled it down the stretch. It's kind of the same lesson as the other night, or the night that the Warriors ended up getting beat by Oklahoma City. But third quarter, Warriors are up 9. Kuminga finally got into the mix. He got his first bucket after an 0-for-7 start. He was the roll man from Buddy Hield on a pick and roll. He had a nice move for a layup. Then Pat Spencer starting to hit threes. Warriors push it out to 67-63. The Cavs made their push late in the third quarter, but the Warriors withstood it to lead by 10 going to the fourth. And the Warriors tonight withstood a few Cavs pushes. And some of it was the Cavs missed some looks, but I mean, Cleveland cut it down to 3 with Donovan Mitchell starting to take over at 80-77 there early in the fourth quarter. And here's another key point in which the Warriors won the game. How about the Pat Spencer personal 8-0 run, a driving layup, and then he hits back-to-back threes, and 80-77 turns into 88-77. Right there, GP2 with a couple of layups. Podziemski had the wild step-through underhand flip against the defensive player of the year and Mobley. And then things got a little janky for the Warriors at the end as Cleveland's really trying to put it on them. Can they get the ball inbounded? It looked like maybe they weren't going to be able to get the ball inbounded as Pat Spencer again was having to call a timeout and hustle it into Guy Santos, and Guy Santos with the bobble, but the eventual catch, and then he can't hit a free throw, and then Garland couldn't hit free throws. And all told, Pat Spencer winds up icing the game with a couple of free throws to get to his career high of 19 points. So all in all, you got to give a major nod to Pat Spencer, who continues to be, I mean, the story of the week for the Warriors as they get the 99-94 win against the Cavaliers to improve to 12-12. So big ups to Pat Spencer. Again, I mentioned it. We can kind of look through the box score. And, I mean, Quentin Post, huge tonight. They needed Buddy Hield's points. Guy Santos, these last couple of games has been terrific. Gary Payton II has been somebody that really has had to play a lot more these last couple of weeks. I mean, he was completely out of the rotation a couple of weeks ago. Started to get some run again, in part because of the Kuminga injury, and then has just remained in the rotation because others have been out. By the way, there's going to be I'm just seeing this. I'm not going to blow it here for everybody. I think a Steve Kerr quote of the year coming tonight that's going to need to be bleeped out. I know our guy Ryan McCarthy's probably all over it, but we have a Steve Kerr quote of the year coming up here on Dubs OT following the Warriors 99-94 win. I'm just seeing it pop up here, and I'm thinking, okay, wow. Yeah, we will see. But yeah, big ups to Pat. Again, I thought Santos, Post, Moody. Again, I know Kuminga 1 for 10. That's pretty ugly. But I thought he played harder tonight, so I don't really want to crush him. Again, it's like I always say, you're not counting on him to, like, I know there was always so much discussion about how on nights like tonight, Kuminga needs to be the lead dog and look to be the the number one offensive threat and presence on this Warriors team. For me, it's never been about that. So I'm not going to crush him on a night where he doesn't do that. The 1 for 10 kind of speaks for itself. But again, he had a block. He had some rebounds. Like I thought he was playing with better intent and more hustle and energy after he got maybe called out a little bit by the head coach. I think both Kuminga and Podziemski got called out a little bit pregame, and I'm sure it was a conversation that had been had in the last 48 hours in the lead up to this game. TJD, Trace Jackson Davis, the much maligned and often rightfully so, Trace Jackson Davis, he was the plus-minus leader for the Warriors tonight at plus 15, 8 points, 5 boards, a block, a steal. Like, he was doing a little bit of everything tonight in his 16 minutes. But the Warriors got in the 48 game minutes tonight, they ended up getting 20 and 14 from their centers. They got a better night from their 2 centers than the Cavs got from their 2 centers, with Evan Mobley basically playing the 5. So I think QP and TJD get a lot of credit as the Warriors find themselves into a win here to improve back to the 500 mark. Let's get a couple of Cole's clicks. Let's do 4 or 5 here. We'll take our first time out. We'll come back. We'll kind of reset everything. Lengthier edition of Cole's Clicks coming up in the YouTube chat, and we'll get our sounds at Dubs OT as well. Probably go to about 8:30 tonight here on the Saturday night. But the big question I want to get into coming up here is, all right, we know how it works when everybody's out and you need an infusion of energy, and Steve Kerr makes the right call to play Spencer over Podziemski, but how does this thing work when the main guys come back in terms of who's going to play and how much and who's not going to play? So I think that's something that the Warriors are going to have to sort through here. Maybe not tomorrow when they go to Chicago and they play the Bulls, but they're going to get the 4 days off and the little mini season reset where everybody projects to come back healthy, including Steph off of the 4 days off, and they'll be back in action Friday against Minnesota. But how do you figure out a rotation from there? Because we've seen the Warriors have problems, figuring it out when they basically, 8, 10, 12, got 12 guys that can play, got 14 guys that can play. And again, I don't think that's necessarily this problem. The problem is more some of the guys that you don't want to have their value completely crater on you are not playing well. But all right, John Jay gets us tipped off here. Pat Spencer is what Dennis Schroeder was supposed to be for us last year. He has been for the last couple of games, to be sure. And again, he gets a ton of credit for that. I do feel like, and again, I hate to be coming off as if it's kind of a little bit of shade, because it's not. Like I think Pat Spencer's been great, but it's not like we've seen a full season of this. We got a guy who's on a heater, doing some things with a team that's needed an infusion. And look, I think Pat's an NBA player, but we're talking about a guy that's probably, when Steph Curry comes back, playing, I don't know, 16 to 18 minutes a game tops. But are we talking about somebody that's just the backup point guard now for the Warriors? Like, I don't know. Like, it feels like there's this tidal wave from the fan base, and maybe it's social media. And again, I don't want to take anything away from Pat, but like, they've needed him to play more, and you give him credit, and he, again, deserves to be on a roster. But it's not like this is, Jeremy Lin in 2012. It's not like this guy's like, but again, I don't want it to come off as shade. But yeah, he is giving him an infusion. He can play pick and roll. He can score a little bit. He can get by his man, which the Warriors don't have a lot of guys off the dribble that can get by their man. So we'll see about that. But again, it's just, and I see we the champs, babe. JD is stubborn. He won't bend. There's no bend. It's just like, are you ready to just anoint Pat Spencer like he's somebody that's going to play 20 minutes, 25 minutes a game now? Like I'm not. I'm not. Come on, JD. It's hard to win in the NBA and pack out. He did. He got it done. Like I'm giving him credit. But what I'm saying is, what does it mean in the big picture? What does it mean in the big picture? Like for now, it's easy. He starts until Steph comes back. But when Steph comes back, does he play 18 minutes a game and Pods is a DNP? Like maybe for a while. But I don't think that that's as easy a decision as the fans are making it. Like this guy's just got to play on a roster where the Warriors have a bunch of guys that have to play. But he's absolutely an NBA player. He's a good player. But again, it feels like there's this, this team's won one game in a week, and Pat's been pretty great in a couple of losses, and a lot of it is the fact that this team is shorthanded. So ride him out, but what does it look like when Steph comes back? I think is going to be the question. But yeah, I mean, he definitely has given him a big time lift moving forward. All right, let's keep it moving. Digum, amazing what happens when you play hard. That I think is the biggest point. Like he always brings a juice. And again, your floor is important, right? Like this is, and this is another thing I'll say as to, Podziemski, especially lately in the comparison with Pat, like Podziemski's floor has been brutal. I mean, just horrifically bad. And indecisiveness and bad shots and turnovers. And, Pat's floor is, he might miss a couple shots or he's a little unathletic compared to maybe some of the guys, but he's not killing you out there. You want to have guys that aren't killing you out there. Bennett Roth, start Spencer at point guard and let Curry play two guard. Yeah, see, I don't know about that. It's E-Beer, I love it. According to the chat, we could get Giannis for Pat Spencer. Again, Pat Spencer deserves his flowers. There's no shade against Pat Spencer. He has been a dude for this team this week, and they've needed it. And he was, I think, their best player tonight in a win on the road against a playoff team in the Eastern Conference. So I don't want to take anything away. And as people are pointing out, yeah, he's not afraid to get in the lane. That's the big thing. He can get all the way to the cup. He's got a little more finish to him than somebody like Podziemski, who he would be directly competing for minutes against when everybody's coming back. So it's kind of the give him his flowers for now, but then how does it work moving forward here? Because look, and I was saying this to somebody via text during the game, this team's got bigger problems still, as much as they needed this win tonight, and it is a feel-good win, and everybody will be happy going to Chicago, and it gives them a boost. And hell, if you can get that game, all of a sudden you're really feeling a lot better about things than they were. But you got to manage this thing to where you could, they've got bigger issues than getting Pat Spencer on the roster, right? Like they have to figure out how much Melton can play, and they have to figure out what their best starting group was. Steph and Jimmy and QP, Steph and Jimmy and Draymond, and is it Post? Is it Melton? Like they got to figure those things out. But yeah, Digum, I agree with you. Amazing what happens when you play hard and collectively. Pat always plays hard. Guy Santos always plays hard. I think TJD always plays hard. I think Kuminga played harder tonight than he has at any point in the week that he's been back. So I think that, those are the kinds of things that needs to, you need to continue to get into. All right, let's do a couple of more here. Let's see. Quentin Post has gotten so much better year one to year two. Yeah, he's a better defender. He's better in the paint. He was never not tough to begin with, but he's willing to accept some physicality. But yeah, defensively, I think he's better. And I think he's got to be unafraid to step through on some closeouts and try to get into the lane a little bit and look to score a little bit more than he has. Like, if you put a fake on somebody, step up, shoot it 2, keep it moving. If anything, that's where he's been caught a little bit, but he's been a much better defender. He's been a much better defender that he was a year ago. He's very good at using his size and being able to position himself between attacking players. He's been excellent. And, that is, as you start to look at, who maybe should be playing more here and how do you carve it out? Like he's been better than Horford's been, and I think a big part of the 4 days off for the Warriors is going to have to be some real honest conversations about what's best for this team right now and what's best for, what's best for trade value and the long haul in January. Because the reality is, right now, Pat should play over Podziemski, or at least play more than Podziemski. And right now, Guy should play over Kuminga, or play more than Kuminga. And you've got guys that are going to be coming back that are going to be taking their minutes as the veterans. But there's this tricky dynamic between, wanting to make sure that you're not destroying somebody's value or their confidence if they're going to be somebody that's going to be on your team moving forward that you're going to need, that the Warriors are going to have to try to figure out here. But the reality is they can't waste too much time trying to figure that out between now and when they can make some trades, because it's going to cost them games in the interim and they can't make trades for a while anyway. So it's like we talked about on Just Dubs. They have to figure out how to get to the point in which they can make some trades. Like tonight, awesome win. Doesn't change the fact that this team needs to make a bunch of moves. And in the grand scheme of them making a bunch of moves, maybe that will also free up a roster spot or a backup point guard position for somebody like Pat Spencer. So 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Let's go ahead and take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll reset everything. We'll get to some phone calls. We'll get into the YouTube chat. You have a line open, 415-808-5627, if you want to jump in there. Warriors get the win in Cleveland. Great win for the Dubs. Probably a top 5 victory. They finally get one of these games without Steph and without Jimmy and without Draymond. They've been competitive in all of them, but they've come up short. Not tonight. They beat the Cavs 99-94. Dubs OT with JD. We're rolling on here on the Sports Leader.
Live from downtown.
Hurry, way downtown. Bang!
This is Dubs OT with John Dickinson on the Sports Leader, streaming live at KNBR.com and on the KNBR app.
So Kuminga, Quentin post, Pat Spencer, Pat cutting without the ball, tic-tac-toe to GP2.
It's unbelievable. When you just cut to the basket, the defenders are just kind of overplaying, not able to keep themselves in between you and the rim. You're cutting from all over the place. The Cavs can't think.
Pat Spencer, attack mode. 19 points, 7 assists, 4 boards. He had a steal in 29 minutes, and it probably would have been more than 29 minutes had he not been in first half foul trouble. We welcome you back. Warriors win over the Cavs, 99-94. Back here on the Sports Leader. It is Dubs OT with JD. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. More Coles clicks coming up here. Before we get back into the YouTube chat and before we get to the calls, I do want to run through a couple of these here. The Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line. 530, Spencer is a legend in the making. 831, Pat is a man. Pods is a kid. Ooh, I don't know about that. Pat plays like a point guard, 408 writes. Pods does not. And the 650 says, best game of December, JD. Best game of December for the Warriors to this point. All right, no disagreement there. In game 3 of December, it is the Warriors' first win in December, and they'll have a chance to get another one tomorrow in Chicago. So 808 KNBR if you want to jump in, Golden State Lumber and Showroom text line, or via the phone lines here, Dubs OT with JD on the Sports Leader. 350, JD was the Spencer of your middle school B team hoops squad. I was a little better than that in middle school. I was a little better than that in middle school. I was a little better than that in high school. But that was it. That was a wrap. But I was feisty. I was feisty as a player. But no, I was also not a point guard. I was not a point guard, but I was feisty in my day. All right, let's get to the phones. Danny in Vancouver is going to get us tipped off here tonight. Dubs OT, big win. Warriors back to 500, which I think is probably in the immediate term the most important thing. Is this prevents them from careening too far away from 500, at least for now. Danny, what's on your mind tonight?
Hey, JD. Good evening. Very improbable, but very important win tonight. I was really pleased to see the Warriors get rewarded for how hard they worked yesterday. So it was a great win. I was stunned, JD, to see Kuminga starting tonight. I mean, I was really surprised, and he was just, sorry, I'm not a hater, but I just got to say he was horrendous in the first quarter. I mean, just really bad. I was worried that I was afraid when he was touching the ball, actually, because he either held it for 10 seconds, he took a bad shot. And I thought he played marginally better in the second half. He didn't hurt them. He made a couple of plays, but it's just shocking how much he's dropped off. So it's frustrating because, he's just a shadow of what he used to be right now. I thought Santos was great. I mean, I think he's got to get some more rotation minutes. And just to talk about Spencer, I mean, I don't know if everyone knows history, but I mean, I know you know this, JD. He was like a Hall of Fame college lacrosse player, one of the best ever. He played basketball in high school, didn't play in university. Played I think he had 1 year of eligibility at Northwestern. I think I got my facts right. And then he joined the NBA, and then he went undrafted. And he started playing in the NBA, I think, in 2021 or 2022. So he started much later, but I mean, he's just an incredible athlete. I think. I mean, I'm not saying he's an incredible basketball player, but he is an incredible athlete. And I think the fact that he started so late, he's still learning the game. So. I just value the Pat Spencer stock maybe higher than most, and I think he's got more of an upside. I love the way he moves the ball. I love the way he can create his own shot. He's only 6'2", but he can get inside and play low and take guards, walk them down and score. So I think he's got to be, for the indefinite future, I think he's got to be playing ahead of Pods. I mean, I just really like him. And, I'm not saying he's going to be an NBA All-Star, but I think there's room to grow. So I guess I'd love to hear your comments, but specifically how much upside is there to the Pat Spencer stock in the future? Thanks, JD. Great program as always.
I think in the short term, you ride it out. And, with Steph out, I think you keep starting him for right now until the play of not only him, but also the play of maybe somebody like Podziemski dictates you move otherwise. Obviously, Steph comes back, and, Steph coming back, if Pat Spencer continues to play well here, and for all intents and purposes, Steph's going to be back coming up on Friday against Minnesota after they get the 4-day break. But if Pat plays well as a starter tomorrow night, then you got to have Pat be the backup point guard going into the game on Friday. And to me, you let the play on the floor dictate it. You ride the hot hand right now that Pat Spencer has until his play specifically dictates that you need to move otherwise. I don't know about the upside. And we'll see. I mean, I think for him to truly get an opportunity to show what the upside could be, it's probably going to have to be more games like without Steph Curry where he gets chances to start. And, I don't think that's obviously not going to be good for the Warriors. That they have a lot of guards to begin with. And, he does have a skill set that is different than a lot of their other guards. And I think, that is something that is a blessing, but also a curse for the Warriors, is the fact that they have a lot of guards that all do a bunch of different things. And so picking the right player to play on a particular night against a specific matchup becomes very difficult, because Podziemski's a very different player than Spencer, who's a very different player than Melton, who's a very different player than Buddy Hield. And in a perfect world, you're probably only playing 4 guards a night, at the 1 and the 2 combined. And so now, DeAnthony Melton's going to be part of that. Steph's going to be part of that. So you've got Seth Curry now entering the conversation. You've got Buddy Hield, who's still in the conversation. I think the Warriors consider Moody more of a forward than a guard. I think they consider GP2 more of a forward than a guard. So I think those guys are out of the conversation. But Will Richard can be more of a forward, I guess, than a guard in addition to that. But divvying up the minutes, and I think it's an issue that probably ultimately, will take care of itself. But the most pressing immediate issue as it relates to Pat Spencer is how do you get him on the 15-man roster, which, again, he's in the 20s in terms of his limit of 50 games that he can play before you have to convert him to one of your 15 spots or move on from him. So there's plenty of time to figure out what you're going to do there. And again, part of the Warriors, whenever they make some trades here at the deadline, and we're still a ways away, less than 2 months now until the trade deadline, is going to be probably to free up a spot to where he can get one of the spots that's remaining. And again, we've talked about, the way to do it is you trade 3 players for 2 or 4 players for 3 or 2 players for 1, however you need to go about doing that. And then you'd have a roster spot open for him at that point. So I'm a little less concerned about the ceiling or the upside. I'm more concerned at this point with just ride the hot hand. And right now, Pat Spencer is a hot hand that's helping this basketball team when he's on the court. As far as Kuminga, I was surprised to see him starting, but you know what? I've mentioned this a ton. And again, I think tonight it was more about you're going to play all 10. So you might as well throw Kuminga a bone. And you put Kuminga out there with Spencer. Spencer's a primary creator for himself and for others. You allow Kuminga to play off of that. You put Buddy Hield and Quentin Post out there. So you've got two shooters out there with Kuminga and Pat, and then Will Richard, who kind of does a little bit of everything in between. So I think it was as much about the five that were starting together, and also that leaving Podziemski and Moody and GP2, who play a lot together, with TJD and Guy Santos as your other five that was basically going to have to. So I think it was, you'd rather have Kuminga with the five that he played with to play the bulk of his minutes and you'd rather have the other five be able to play together. So I think that probably factored into it. He was not good in the first quarter. But again, I do think he played with better intent and energy as the game went on. And I also think, I say throwing Kuminga a bone, the Warriors do have to keep appearances up on Jonathan Kuminga and to a lesser extent, Brandon Podziemski. They cannot allow for it to appear as if they're done with him and he's done with them, and this thing is just completely beyond repair with 6 weeks to go before the trade deadline. Like, that just cannot happen. It cannot happen. So to allow for Kuminga to start tonight, I mean, I think it's twofold, right? You give him an opportunity, but you're also telling the world, hey, nothing to see here. As bad as he's been, there's nothing to see here. And so we'll see. And let's get to Andrew down in Southern California here on Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. What's going on, Andrew?
What's up, JD? Hey, appreciate the call. I just got to give the boys a shout out after that rough loss. And a couple of things that you touched on that I think is interesting. And I think that the silver lining in all of this that actually makes me happy as a Warriors fan is with our big three guys being out, it is going to create clarity for Steve Kerr moving forward on who is going to get rotation minutes. And this whole conversation about Pat Spencer and his ceiling, like I personally feel like his ceiling is potentially running the second unit and maybe having Jimmy out there next to him as a second creator as he staggers Jimmy's minutes. But I also just want to give a shout out to Quentin Post, man. He had 9 rebounds, 3 blocks tonight. Cavaliers have a good front court. And he's just getting better and better and better. And with his shooting, I can definitely see him starting next to Draymond moving forward, because Kerr said this before. He doesn't want Draymond starting the whole season at center. It's just going to wear him down. So impressed by Quentin Post. I like Pat's consistency, but I see him running the second unit as his ceiling. And also impressed with Guy Santos and his hustle, man. So these guys, Kerr's getting clarity on who's going to earn minutes, who wants it, so that when the guys do come back, the big guys, it's going to clear up the rotation, which I'm really happy about. So appreciate the call, JD. Take care.
Yeah, I hope it does. I'm not so sure that it creates clarity. I think in some ways it might create a little bit more confusion. And I say that while also not necessarily believing that, I don't necessarily disagree with anything that you said about, maybe Pat ends up out there with a group that has Jimmy Butler. I know Quentin Post has been a part of that start of the second quarter group. Podziemski has been to this point. That could be a means to get him in. Quentin Post as a starter. I think Steph, Melton, Jimmy, Draymond, Quentin Post. I kind of like that starting five, but again, how much can DeAnthony Melton play? Is he going to be not playing in back-to-backs? I think we knew he wasn't going to play back-to-backs initially, and he didn't tonight. So I think that's, one thing. If Guy Santos is going to play, where does that leave Kuminga in a world where you also have Moses Moody and GP2? And so I think it's not clear cut at this point. I feel like, as and the part that comes with the Warriors learning about these guys with the main guys out, because I also think you could make the case that this Warriors team needs to play completely differently when those guys are out. And Pat Spencer, when those guys are out, is even more valuable than maybe he is when those guys are playing. And that's kind of its own conundrum. Guy Santos is more valuable because you need his energy when the main guys are out. I mean, there's something to be said for the fact that the Warriors have been competitive. Tonight's the first one they were able to get the victory, but the Warriors have been competitive in all of these games where the big three has been out. They hadn't won any until tonight, but Sacramento, Miami, Philly after Draymond went out tonight, but a part of the reason they've been competitive is because a lot of the same guys, Pat, QP, Guy Santos, a lot of those guys have wound up being, brought energy to where it's helped them, be able to compete and win in some of those games. So, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick 1 minute timeout, and then we're going to come back and we're going to get back into the YouTube chat. Dubs OT with JD right here, back in a minute on the Sports Leader. All right, we're back. You're listening to KNBR FM and 680 AM San Francisco, the Sports Leader, a Cumulus media station. We move into the 8 o'clock hour. It's Dubs OT with JD here on the Sports Leader. Quick break. Sometimes you got to handle a little business and just to kind of let everybody behind the curtain a little bit. Sometimes there are certain commercials that need to play before a certain time. Otherwise, you don't get credit for that commercial playing. And so Cole LaPelt's like, yeah, dude, you got to get this in before 8 o'clock. You don't have to take a super long break, but we got to, make sure that this gets done. So we take a quick little 1 minute timeout. I get a little buzzer beater credit and we move forward.
Just a little breather
into the 8 o'clock hour. Yeah. Just a little quick breather. Make sure everybody gets credit for what they're paying for here on Dubs OT. And right back to the people here at 808 KNBR 415-808-5627. Warriors win over the Cavs in Cleveland. I mean, my goodness. I mean, it's got to be not even a top 5 all-time Warrior victory at Cleveland. I mean, they've won a couple of championships and some big finals games there. But a hell of a win nevertheless, all things considered. 99-94 is the final. Let's get back to the phones. We'll get some more Cole's clicks here. But Mark in San Francisco wants to jump in and join the conversation here on the Sports Leader. Hey, what's going on tonight, Mark?
Not much, JD. I think his role might be like McConnell of Indiana. Come in and stabilize the second unit. He plays with an edge.
I like that name.
He plays with an edge. I love his attitude. He just plays hard. He's fearless. But I see him in that kind of role, possibly.
I like that name. That was a name that I had texted somebody tonight, actually, during the game. I said he reminds me a little of McConnell, like in terms of impact. Like you don't think he's going to make an impact, but he does make an impact, and he's unafraid. And that's the big thing. Like he has a skill set that others on the Warriors just don't have, and it really, I think, on nights where they don't hit shots, it or look a little tentative in taking shots, it really, really shows in a bad way. But Spencer's ability to, no, I've got an advantage. I'm gonna drive to the basket he's got some skill in terms of his ability to finish, and he'll even stop and throw almost a post move on somebody, or he'll kick it out. Like he's very creative in the skill set that he's able to possess. So I think backup point guard is something that I definitely think moving forward could be a role for him. The Warriors have to, though, build out the rest of the roster to find some groups that they feel like play well with him, that also include some of the guys that are going to be coming back. I'm not saying it can't happen, just saying I think it's a little bit more tricky to be able to break all that stuff down here on the fly as the Warriors try to do it moving forward here, leading toward the trade deadline. Wow, I was a little stunned here watching Ohio State miss a very short field goal for the tie. That threw me there. That threw me there, Mark. Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on McConnell and the comparison, and looking to find a role here for him moving forward as the Warriors get their guys back.
How these pieces are all going to fit. That's going to be the interesting thing going forward. How do you fit these guys into their spots? That's going to be something to see. Also, one thing about him, he doesn't turn the ball over, which is he plays under control, which really I really like in his game.
Yep, he definitely does. And thanks for the call. Yeah, I was shook there. The chat reacted. I was shook. I couldn't believe that. Yeah, not a great night in Ohio at this point. Looks like Indiana's gonna get the Big Ten championship game victory here, although still time to go, a couple of minutes to go in that one. But yeah, that one had me shook in the middle of the call there. I was not expecting that kick to be missed, and it does appear as if Ohio State may very well be going down. 808 KNBR 415-808-5627, the number to jump in and join the conversation. Let's get some chats. I've been unintentionally neglecting the chat here. Cole's been ready to go. He's got the itchy finger, and getting him up on the screen here on this Saturday night. But yeah, let's run through a bunch of them, Cole. What do we got here? What sticks out here? Douglas Mikes, great to hear from you. The issue with the Warriors roster construction right now is that it seems like they're adamant about Draymond starting. With Steph and Butler starting, that means they need a scoring option at center or at shooting guard. Really good point. And Draymond's got to start. Like, to me, it's not the Draymond starting part of that's the problem. It's you have to build your roster where that's part of building your roster around Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond. And so, I maintain that the Warriors' best lineups are when Draymond is at the 5. But if you had a better option at the 2, complementing Jimmy and Draymond at the 3 and the 4, then you could play Quentin Post at the 5 and not have a problem playing Quentin Post at the 5. Is that guy Melton? Maybe. I mean, I think it could be. I mean, Quentin Post gives you another shooter with Steph. Melton does a little bit of everything. And then you've got Jimmy and Draymond. If Melton if Melton was just a 27-year-old dude who was healthy and in his prime and could play 30 to 35 minutes a game, it would be a very easy problem to fix. You would just start DeAnthony Melton and play him 30 to 35 minutes a game next to Steph, and roll with Jimmy and roll with Draymond and roll with Quentin Post, or maybe you put Moses Moody in there if you want to go small, and it's easy at that point. And yes, as Diggum says, it's not easy if you can't rebound, but you got to be able to rebound collectively if you're going to play smaller. I mean, that's always been the case. We've seen the Warriors do that in the playoffs. They haven't consistently been able to do it as much in the regular season because of the night-to-night nature of you're playing different teams, and even bad teams have good rebounders and athletes and size and that kind of thing. But roster construction is an issue in about 10 different ways for the Warriors right now. And, the fact that they're able to come up with 10 guys that can play hard together on nights where everybody's out and compete, a lot of the times, again, be just good enough to lose. But the fact that they're able to compete without everybody and then at the same time not have enough guys who complement the main guys on nights where the main guys play, that's a problem. That's a problem, and I think that's a problem that the Warriors thought they were going to be immune to, and to this point, they just haven't been immune to. And so that I think is something to keep an eye on here moving forward. All right, from Douglas Mikes, let's keep it moving here. The fact is, the middle of the roster failed. That's not on Kerr. That's on the players. Kerr has G Leaguers and second rounders playing great. There's no doubt. I mean, we talked about it on Just Dubs today. It's a simple fact that Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond are your guys. Quentin Post can play with those guys. Moses Moody up and down can play with those guys. He's the least of the problems compared to Podziemski and Kuminga. And Will Richards fit in. And now you've got Guy, who's been able to fit in. You've got Pat Spencer, who's been able to fit in. You've got GP2, who's been able to fit in. And it's the Buddy Hields as a veteran. It's the Al Horfords as veterans. I included them in this too that have been disappointing, although Buddy did help him tonight. But it's Podziemski and Kuminga, and to a lesser extent Moody, who hasn't been good the last couple of weeks for the most part. And again, it goes back to Moody is often at his best when he's playing with Steph and Jimmy and Draymond. But if you take one of those guys away and expect Moody to step up, he can't step up. And if he's got to play 2 weeks without those guys, then he looks borderline unplayable 75% of the time. It's almost like the Warriors have 3 or 4 different teams. It's almost like the Warriors have 3 or 4 different teams that, which group do you want to play? Which group do you want to play moving forward? All right, let's move it. Let's continue on here in the chat. Chico State 14. Cleveland went 37 for 107 from the floor and 10 of 42 from 3. Basketball gods with us tonight. Yeah, I mean, look, Cleveland was a great offense last year. They haven't been as great this year, but they caught them on a cold night. I think the Warriors got the benefit tonight of what we've seen the Warriors do when other teams have guys out. There's a little bit of a let up. I think the Warriors they benefited from the let up tonight. They benefited from the Cavs. Oh my God. No Steph. They knew that. Then no Jimmy, no Draymond. I think that there's a let up. And when you go in and you play hard and you move the ball and you defend and a team has a cold night and they're a little bit less engaged, guess what? You got a chance to build a 12 to 15 point lead, and then all of a sudden they're in trouble on their home court and the crowd gets a little tight and you can win the game. You knew the Cavs were going to go on their run, and they did, but guess what? The Warriors had just enough of a lead to where they could hang on down the stretch when the Cavs, and they weren't perfect enough when they made their run to be able to complete the deal. I mean, some missed shots from Mitchell and Garland and Mobley, just a lot of missed shots. A lot of missed shots for the Cavs in moments in which they probably could have still stolen the game. But yeah, I mean, you take it. Again, other teams have won games like this with guys out. I'm looking around at the NBA scoreboard, as I always do. And, teams get random wins here and there. Dallas beat Houston tonight. Sacramento won in Miami tonight. Not that Miami's great shakes, but they're 14-10. Miami's 14-9 hosting Sacramento, 5-17, and Zach LaVine hit 8 threes and scored 42 points, and the Kings put 127 on Miami. It happens. There are random wins all over the place on a night in, night out basis in the league that you don't anticipate. But yeah, the Warriors have been just good enough to lose to this point with the young guys being able to play. Yeah, Levine was with it. Yeah, I can't. Levine stinks. He had a great night tonight. I'll give him credit. And no, Brian Banks, TJD does play hard. He doesn't play well. He plays hard. TJD plays hard. Again, sometimes when you don't play well, it looks like you're not playing hard. All right, let's get another couple of comments here. If JK was competitive and played with his hair on fire, 1 of 10 kind of nights wouldn't bother me as much. I thought he played closer to that tonight than he had at any point since he's come back. And this is his 4th game back. But yeah, something's going on with Kuminga. Like he still seems. I know he got beat on a couple drives tonight. He got blocked and missed a layup, but there's a reluctance to really go and attack and get to the free throw line and finish plays. And again, it's one of two things, as we talked about, and I'm not going to belabor it, but it's one of two things. He's either quiet quitting or it's a scenario where he's not healthy. It's one or the other. All right, let's get another one here on the break pod. The other thing with Spencer is the league doesn't know who he is. Once the league catches up to the scouting report, Spencer's impact will be limited. I mean, yeah, we'll see. I mean, again, Pat Spencer had moments last year when he got opportunities. He had moments even in the playoffs a couple of times when he got opportunities to play against Minnesota and Houston. So I don't think, Pat Spencer is, I consider him the hot hand right now. Like, we're talking about, I don't even want to bring the game log, but like, what are we talking about here in terms of games where Pat Spencer's made a significant impact? 5 games, like three games, 4 games. Like, look, I like Pat Spencer fine, but and again, he deserves all of his flowers for what he's done this week and helping the Warriors, win tonight, be in position to win on Thursday, have a chance to come back and win against OKC on Tuesday. But we're still far from knowing for sure exactly what Pat Spencer is going to bring to the table as far as, is he a backup point guard? Is he for sure? Right now, like I said, right now he's better than Pods. So right now you play him more than Pods. Or if Steph's out, you start him over Pods. But like we don't know if that's going to be the case a week from now. And again, that's part of the Warriors' big problem is the fact that night to night over a 2-week span, in any 2-week span where all of these players are getting a lot of minutes, this is the issue. In any 2-week span, Pat might be great for a week and then he's not. And then you go back to Pods and Pods is good for a week and then he's not. And then Gee, you love right now, but then he's not. And then Kuminga has a couple games where he scores 20 and then you want to play Moody instead of it. That's been the problem, is the fact that you look up and none of these guys are consistent enough once they're declared the guy. And so I'm reluctant. If Steve Kerr says Pat's the guy, he's our backup point guard, he's going to play every night, he's ahead of Pods. Well, who's to say he doesn't have 5 terrible games himself immediately following that? Like, he's not, we don't know. Guy's just, in his infancy in terms of being able to break into the league. All right, let's move forward here with another couple. Diggum, if you can get a solid 20 minutes out of Pat, that's all you need with more solid players coming back. I would agree with that. And I don't even think the number's 20. It's probably 16. It's probably 16. It's probably 8 minutes a half or 3 or 4 5-minute shifts. That's probably all it is, depending upon the night. But again, whose minutes is he going to get? That's the other question. And again, right now he's getting Steph's minutes. Like, you can say he's getting Podziemski's minutes, and that's true, but right now he's getting Steph's minutes because Steph's not playing. So what does this look like when Steph comes back? And then does that mean Pods take some of Buddy's minutes, or Pods take some of Will Richards' minutes, and then Melton's coming back? So and again, Pat is not the same type of player as Pods. So it's not as simple. Like, you're not going to play, you're going to play Steph and Pat together. No, I think you want Pat to play when Steph's not on the court because he's a creator. Rich Ray, is it me, or do we have a team full of guards? Yeah, they got a bunch of guards. We the champs, babe. JD went from you can't give Pat 18 minutes a game to this. JD is warming up. Well, again, we're talking about when Steph's back. Like, when Steph's back, like, he's not. If Steph's playing 32, how many point guard minutes are there? 16. Steph's playing 30, there's 18. But that's if Pat keeps playing at the level that he's playing to this point. All right, let's keep it moving on the phone lines. Bob in Saratoga next here on Dubs OT. What's going on, Bob?
I think you'd agree with me that defense wins ball games, and I wanted to talk about Draymond Green, probably the best defender in the NBA. There's been rumors and talk about trading him, but the thing that we got to get clear, and the coach will come to this originally, he's a very good coach. That's what's going to save us. He'll also solve the problem of who plays when. I have full faith in that our coach will take care of that and do the right thing. It's an abundance to have so many good players. It's not a problem. So let the coach figure it out. But Draymond should never be allowed to shoot a three. He misses about 90% of the time. It turns into a turnover because they don't guard him, and the guy that's supposed to be guarding him is under there getting a rebound. So he should be focused on defense and not shooting at all unless he's under the basket. That's fine because he's got some height. So that's it for me. Any comment?
Draymond didn't even play tonight. We're talking about Draymond shooting threes. Like, and look, I get it. Like, there's been plenty of games where Draymond shot too many threes. I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I mean, I'm looking at Draymond. Draymond's shooting. What is he shooting from three? 33%. He's exactly 33% right now from 3-point range. So 31 for 93. He's made exactly one of every 3 threes. Does he need to be shooting a high volume per game? No, he doesn't. I think it's, but teams are going to dare him, so I think at times he does have to take a couple just to keep the defense honest. So we'll keep it at that. But you can't be a complete non-threat as, he would be if he just turns down some of those shots out there at the top of the key. And for whatever reason, he's been able to hit them early in games. So that's been kind of a pleasant surprise. But Bob, always thank you. Thank you for the call here on Dubs OT and Just Dubs and any show here on the Sports Leader. Let's get a few more clicks here. Let's do like 3 or 4 more. We'll pause. We'll play some Steve Kerr sound that you're not going to want to miss. We'll play some Guy Santos sound you're not going to want to miss. Aiden Young music. Feels like our defense first approach and playing hard is the way to go. Well, it has to be the way to go when you don't have 3 future Hall of Fame players playing. Actually, maybe 4. I mean, Al Horford probably is a Hall of Famer actually too, with the way the Basketball Hall of Fame works out. So when we don't have a bunch of Hall of Famers, you definitely do. And look, the Warriors defense has been statistically, I don't think it's been as good as the numbers have said, but statistically, I mean, they were a top 5 to 7 defense coming into the game tonight, and then built on that tonight. I mean, they didn't give up 100 to this Cavaliers team that couldn't buy a bucket. So yeah, I mean, it's the only way you can play if you're the Warriors when you don't have guys. But the defense has not been the problem. I mean, Steve Kerr's mentioned it a bunch. He believes that the offense is much more the problem, and I agree with him. I think the offense is much more the problem for the Warriors here to begin the year. And that's something that they still have to work on continuing to be able to fix as they get the main guys back and try to figure out the proper amount of playing time for everybody else. And I think it's going to include some difficult decisions based on Pat Spencer pushing the envelope, Guy Santos pushing the envelope. And I think the one question that will be asked internally, and I'm speaking more big picture here than game to game. Like right now, right now, Spencer is the hot hand. But the question that's going to have to be asked internally is going to be, do you completely go away from Pat Spencer when Steph Curry comes back? Do you completely go away from from Santos when you get Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green back? And if you do that, then it's at the expense of who? Is it at the expense? Because the two guys that it would be, Spencer playing more and Santos playing more are at the expense of Podziemski and Kuminga, and those are the two guys whose value you kind of need to keep up if you want to be able to include them in a trade. And look, Kuminga, as we've talked about, he's got to go. So you don't want to completely wreck his trade value completely. But the defense first approach is the way to go. All right, two more, and we'll take a timeout. Pat H chiming in. Like it or not, Pods has to play 20 minutes a night. They don't have the bodies otherwise. I'm not so sure about that. To be perfectly honest, I'm not. I mean, who's to say right now you couldn't play Melton and Buddy as your primary two guards and then play Pat as your backup with Steph? Again, I'm talking when Steph comes back. Right now, Pods has to play 20 minutes a night. Like right with Steph out, Pods has to play 20 minutes a night. That 100%. And look, Pods wasn't even bad tonight overall. Like he was better than he's been is probably a better way to say it, and hit some big buckets. But you could go Steph and Melton if Melton's going to be healthy enough to carry that. You could go Buddy. You could go Pat as the backup guard. You could mix in Seth. Like you could, but would that be the best thing for the team in the long term if you look to go about it that way? All right, one more here before we take our next time out. As Indiana wins, number 2 beats number 1. Wow. In the Big Ten championship game, 13-10, Indiana over Ohio State. So Indiana's going to be the 1 seed going into the college football playoff.
You think Kyle Hart's liking this?
Is he? I don't know. Was Kyle Hart?
I think he's a Mendoza hater now.
Oh, okay, got it. That makes sense. Adrian Gutierrez, see what happens when Kerr plays his bigs post TJD Santos. Well, yeah, but again, Adrian, this is without Jimmy and without Draymond. Like it's completely different. Like it's completely different. What you can, it's in some ways easier to play those guys when you don't have Draymond and you don't have Jimmy. It's not a matter of play them with Draymond. You can't play them. You can't play TJD with Draymond and Jimmy. You can't. So you got to figure out another lineup combination that works. And if Draymond's playing the 4, that takes away minutes from other players that might be playing the 4, including Guy. Because I think his best position is the 4. And he played the 4 tonight, really the whole night. That takes minutes away from Kuminga as well. So, but yeah, again, I mean, it's a no-brainer. You have 10 guys. You had 2. I mean, you can look at the depth chart tonight. It was pretty easy. He started Spencer. Podziemski was the backup. You had a very clear-cut 2 deep tonight. He started Spencer. Podziemski was the backup. He started Buddy at the 2. Moody was the backup. He started Will Richard at the 3. GP2 was the backup. He started Kuminga at the 4. Santos was the backup. Post was the 5. TJD was the back. Like it was very clear-cut. And he crossed Moody and GP a little bit with Richard and Hield, but they were all the 2, the 3 at different points in the game. And Santos basically, or Kuminga, played the 4. I'm looking at my little lineup sheet. Santos or Kuminga played every minute tonight at the 4. So Post or TJD played every minute tonight at the 5. Can you do that and be an effective team with Draymond Green and Jimmy Butler? I'm not sure you can. But again, it goes back to the point that's been such a huge theme of the show here tonight, which is the simple fact that it's almost as if this Warriors team has to be like 4 different teams. They've got to be the team when they have everybody. This is the group that has to play. And then you've got the team that when nobody plays, you got to play this group. And that includes a lot of Gee and a lot of Pat Spencer and how it looked tonight to be competitive. And then you've got the group that has to play when maybe one guy's out or you need to rest 2 guys, or it's convoluted. It's convoluted. And it leaves Steve in a very difficult position. But it also, I think, it goes back to the roster construction as a whole. All right, let's take a timeout. 808 KNBR, 415-808-5627. Been a real good conversation tonight. Warriors win 99-94 over the Cavs. We'll come back. We'll get our sounds at Dubs OT and some more Coles clicks here tonight in for Kyle Harr, as it is John Dickinson here on the Sports Leader.
Dub Nation, this is the real and inside story on Warriors basketball. Dubs OT with John Dickinson continues. Streaming live at twitch.tv/thesportsleader.
All right, welcome back. Final segment here. Dubs OT with JD, our sounds of Dubs OT. Appreciate Cole LaPelt, Ryan McCarthy. Warriors win 99-94. They get the job done. Huge second quarter for Golden State as they flipped the game. And the second quarter was an ugly first quarter for the second straight game. Warriors were down 18-12, but they go 33-18 in the second quarter, and a whole lot of Pat Spencer along with Guy Santos and Quentin Post and a bunch of others, Trace Jackson Davis, helping the Warriors get one of their most improbable victories of the season. All right, more from the YouTube chat coming up here in just a few minutes, but let's hear our sounds at Dubs OT for tonight. We'll start with the head coach, Steve Kerr, and this is the clip that you didn't want to miss. Who is Pat Spencer, Steve? Who?
Well, I mean, we've seen the competitiveness. We've seen what a good player he is in the past couple of years, but he's really improved his jump shot. I mean, that's the big thing. He's last year he would turn down a lot of threes, drive in, shoot a lot of floaters, and you know, he's never going to be Steph, but he's a threat out there, and that's what it takes. You have to be a threat from the line to be able to pull the defense out. And I just think the shot quality now that we're getting with him on the floor is way better than it was the last couple of years. And then I think the other thing is that his coach realized that Pat is that. You know, I think that's that became clear. Sorry. Am I allowed to say that, or am I going to get into
no, it's okay.
Okay. All right.
Did you know it before Philly, or
No, yeah. I was getting the inkling, you know, it was starting to creep in, but I didn't realize it until he told the world. And tonight was very clear.
So there you go. Pat Spencer is that MFer, per Steve Kerr and per Pat Spencer, who again told the world. That is classic Steve Kerr, classic Pat Spencer, who likes to talk his bleep, both on Thursday night and tonight, which adds, I think, a level of energy and intensity that everybody surely can respect. Let's get to another Steve Kerr. And I think this has been kind of an under-discussed part of the program here in the 90 minutes that we've been on, but the ability for the guys who played in the second half in particular and led the comeback against Philly to have that game turn into really a very difficult gut punch of a loss, for that group basically to come back and have to play a full game together again against a better team in Cleveland than the Philly team. I know Cleveland's got some guys out, but here's Steve addressing just how nice it was to see everybody get off the mat and be able to compete at the level the Warriors were able to compete coming off of such a difficult loss.
Yeah, I mean, we've watched us 3 games in a row where, you know, we've found a really good groove, played good two-way basketball, and obviously the last game was a gut punch. You know, the OKC one, we played well. They hit huge shots down the stretch. But the other night in Philly, that was a tough one. So it feels great to see the guys respond and come up with a big win against a great team without so many of our guys.
Yeah, and that's the big tell is, I mean, to get off the mat after being so competitive, that's impressive as hell to me, because I think so often you see a team that's just good enough to get beat on one night, and then they come back and you see, oh, well, they're competing, but the talent just isn't there and they're not going to win on a night like tonight because they kind of missed their opportunity. Well, no, this team backed up what they did on Thursday night in Philly after backing up on Thursday night in Philly what they did in the second half against Oklahoma City, and they've just kept at it, really, for the most part. They got to figure out the first quarter thing tomorrow in Chicago if it's going to be the same group, although it sounds like Jimmy and Draymond and Melton and Horford are going to, at a minimum, Seth Curry, be able to come back and play tomorrow. But yeah, I think you got to give the guys who don't always get an opportunity to play a ton a little extra nod for being able to just get off the mat and play and compete at the level that they did tonight, given the fact that they had to withstand such a difficult defeat in the game on Thursday at Philadelphia. All right, let's hear one more Steve Kerr, then we'll get some Pat Spencer and a couple of Guy Santos to close things out here. Steve, talking about possessions when Pat is on the floor and just the way he's able to kind of lead the offense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pick and roll threat that he brings that is, he just takes care of the ball in one turnover in, 30 minutes tonight and 7 assists. He just gets us into, really good offensive rhythm and gets guys shots and just creates really good possessions. Even when we don't score, the possessions feel good when he's out there.
And good possessions mean that you have the ability to get back and play quality defense, which I think is another underrated element to that. When you're turning it over, your defense is screwed. When you're, guys are dishing it out for grenade type shots, or you're taking bad shots early in the shot clock, your defense is screwed. When you run good offense, even if you don't make shots, it helps your defense. And then your defense can go back the other way and get a stop, and then you go back and you run good stuff on offense. So I think we talk about complementary football all the time in the NFL, and I think in the NBA sometimes you got to play complementary basketball. You got to not have your offense completely screw up your defensive prowess and vice versa. And so often bad offense leads to worse defense. No matter what level of defensive team you are, bad offense makes you worse defensively. And so I think the better offense has allowed for the Warriors defense, which has still been pretty good. Even without the main guys, it's been very good these last 3 games for the most part, but the offense was not setting them back to a point to where the defense was being hamstrung, to a greater degree. All right, let's hear the man of the night, Pat Spencer. Podium game, Pat, in Cleveland tonight. Here is Pat Spencer, this courtesy of NBC Sports Bay Area. Loving the energy from the Dubs with the big road win.
It took a collective effort. We had 10 guys, but we had 10 pretty young guys today, and they were coming off a back-to-back. So we knew if we played with pace, got up and down, we would find some shots that were beneficial for us. Thought we did a heck of a job defensively on those guys. Like I said, they were on a back-to-back. So probably in our favor a little bit, but just proud of the guys. The effort and energy was off the charts tonight.
Yeah, and the Warriors take advantage of that. They didn't win the turnover battle tonight. Cleveland ended up with 12 turnovers. The Warriors had 14 total turnovers, but the Warriors were moving the ball. And again, the in-between game, I think, has been there. They're generating some good looks from 3, but they're not taking as many threes, at least not since the first quarter of that game in Philly the other night. They're really trying to move it, and the in-between game has been there. And, yeah, you get a ton of credit for the defense. And, yeah, you take any advantage you get. The Warriors are going to be at a disadvantage tomorrow in Chicago, potentially, in terms of the back-to-back. The Bulls played last night at home, got beat by Indiana, by the way. But the Cavs had played last night at home as well. So the Warriors did have a little bit of a rest advantage over the Cavaliers compared to where things were from them playing last night's game. All right, one more from Pat Spencer on the group that's playing now, finding a way to compete and finding the way to figure out how to have an identity.
Yeah, we feel really dang good about where our defense is at right now. The identity is more so on the offensive side of the ball. We've had a bunch of guys in and out of the lineup from injuries, absences. So ultimately it's about finding that middle ground between being a young team that pushes. Obviously that's where the league's heading right now. But when we get some guys back, we've got, a couple superstars that can get it done too. So it's just about finding that collective effort, finding that identity as a group. But I really like where we're at. We're 12-12, and we've been banged up. So no worries there.
12-12, banged up and inconsistent. And again, I think, tonight should be celebrated, and we have done that here for the last 90 minutes on Dubs OT, as we often do. And tomorrow is kind of what it is. Like you'd hate to, not get tonight. Or you'd hate to get tonight if you're the Warriors and then have guys come back and then not get tomorrow night is kind of where I was going. It feels like if you could somehow get tomorrow night, and I mean, how could you not be motivated if you're Jimmy and Draymond and Melton and Seth and Horford? How could you not be motivated to get your ass back out on the court if you're one of those guys, given the way everybody else played tonight, to try and finish this thing off with a second win and get to +1 to 500 going into 4 days off, going into the 2 games in the next 10 days here before the schedule starts to pick up again around the holiday. Like, how can you, to me, like, tomorrow becomes a big game. Like, tonight prevented a catastrophic week, but tomorrow can make you think that maybe this team's actually got a little bit of juice as they continue to push toward what is going to still have to be done. Because that's the one thing I will say unequivocally is, the Warriors have to make some moves, but the moves that they have to make can't be made for a while, number one. And number two, the moves that they have to make can be adjusted based on the things that they're learning about the roster. Who are the keepers and who are the guys that maybe become expendable? That's the way I would say, I think, everybody listening and watching on YouTube and Twitch should kind of think of it. Who are the keepers and who are the guys that you can use to bring back other talent that pairs potentially better with Steph and with Jimmy and with Draymond to where this team can still have some semblance of a chance to get off on a bigger run. All right, let's do 2 more. Couple of Guy Santos. Wait, Guy Cole, you're telling me Guy dropped a blah, 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 blah?
He did, in fact.
Guy? All right, let's play Guy Santos.
Like you said, like after the game tonight, we were happy. Everybody win feels great every time. It doesn't matter how you get the win. But like I said, there is the last 48 hours. That was a couple up and downs because we lost a tough game in Philly. And everybody's just like, damn, we should win that game. That game was important for us. And the other night, you got to be ready and play it again. And I'm glad that we did it tonight. Huge compliment for Pat, that guy. He's a dad. I don't know if I can say that, Raymond, but I'm gonna say it. Pat is that. He's great. He's great to have a guy like that in the team, man.
So there you go. Pat is that mother father. I mean, it's, again, when you tell the world that that's who you are, that's who you are. I mean, your teammates are only gonna follow. I mean, it's really, I mean, Cole, it really, like, we do have one guy that has that kind of energy on our staff here at the Sports Leader. Like, we got one guy, Cole. Really, honestly, great. Pull up the mic here. I'm just gonna say there is one guy that has that Pat Spencer mother father energy.
We're not talking about Cubs, are we?
No, we're talking about Kyle Chung. Come on, we're talking about Kyle Chung.
Best plus minus in the history of the show.
No, we're talking about Kyle Chung. I love Kyle Har. Kyle Har's in Honolulu. He's coming back, I think, tomorrow night. I think late. And he's going to be tan and ready to go by Friday when he gets the extra days off. But no, it's Kyle Chung, man. Kyle Chung is if you're like, JD, who is that mother father on the KNBR, the Sports Leader squad? It's Kyle Chung, man. Without a doubt. He is that dude. That dude. All right, let's get one more here. One more Guy, and he drops the mother father, and then Guy also weighs in on Pat Spencer and Pat Spencer, who was going at it with the Cavs fans tonight. He's going out with the Philly fans on Thursday. He's going out with everybody. Here's Guy on Pat, always talking that crazy nonsense.
No, he's actually funny, man. He's a funny guy. He's not gonna talk to you. but he gonna say like some crazy stuff for himself, you know. So that's what keep him going, you know. That's what he does to make himself feel good in the game. So it's funny. It's actually funny to work out with him.
Everybody loose. Everybody's just loose. We don't have our Dubs OT After Dark tonight, our YouTube shows where we just get a little loose. Cole, you haven't been a part of one of those. Like sometimes when we're on the radio, we have to like adhere to the FCC guidelines, but sometimes, you know, some of the shows that are YouTube only, we do have a couple of YouTube only shows coming up with the 49ers schedule and the holidays. So we're going to have a couple, you know, we really get it going here and maybe let loose a little bit. But yeah, that's a little Dubs OT After Dark. But Guy just cursing left and right, like just letting it hang, man. Like the Warriors are feeling good after this win against the Cleveland Cavaliers. All right, we got about, I don't know. You tell me, Cole, how much time, when do we have to get out? Like, here's where we do the calculation again to make sure everybody gets their spots played on time as we get closer to the top of the hour. I'll crack that mic, brother.
We got about 5 more minutes, brother.
On-air production meeting. Like, it's Saturday night. It's almost 9:00. Any kind of production meeting we need to have, we'll just do it. We'll just do it on the air. Let's get some Cole's clicks. Let's run through as many as we can get to. We'll do some fun with numbers here, but as many as we can get to here in like the next 3 minutes. And I will try not to pontificate too much on each and every one of them. Douglas Mikes, Post either needs to start at center the vast majority of the time, or they need to figure out if they need to trade for a starter at center. I think you can go with Post. I think you can't not account for Al Horford in that. Because if Al Horford can get back to playing closer to Al Horford, then they don't need to go get another center. But if Al Horford can't, then I agree with you. Maybe you need to figure out about QP, and if not, you need to go get somebody else. So good comment there from Douglas Mikes. Next up, I knew about Brock first. This is Greg Papa's burner. I knew about Brock before Brock was Brock and the Brock Star. I've been calling for Guy to play more all season. Athletic wing who makes hustle plays. Well, good on you. Because I like Guy a lot. I don't ever say Guy shouldn't play, but anytime you say Guy needs to play, the question becomes who's not going to play. So if you're going to play Guy, that means you're probably not going to play GP as much. It means you're probably not going to play Kuminga as much. It means you might not play Moody as much. Just, again, not saying, just saying. So you have to be comfortable with all those things if you want to play Guy more, not on a night like tonight where everybody's out and the last couple of nights where everybody's basically been out. Moving forward here, again, Diggum. Phil Jackson couldn't win with this group. Well, he would once in a while. He'd get one once in a while. But yeah, I mean, point taken in terms of the overall talent. And let's be honest. I mean, this team, you know what? I'm not even going to say it, Cole. I'm not even going to say it because I'm not even going to say it. Tonight is not the night when they get a big win in Cleveland for me to say what I think this team would win over an 82-game season if they played it would be in the 20s. Let's just say it would be in the 20s. All right, let's keep it. We'll keep it rolling. See, I'm not going to say it and then I say it because that's just, yeah. Read the Steed. Where you been, brother? Trade Steph, Trey, Butler, and Kerr. Build around Spencer. Exactly, Reed. It is the Pat Spencer show. We are all just living in Pat Spencer's world. All right, next up, I just need TJD to play tougher. Sometimes he's too soft. Yeah, sometimes he is. No question. And look, I give TJD a lot of credit because he's had a lot of rough moments. And tonight, he looked like he belonged a little bit. But yeah, he does need to be a little tougher going up, a little tougher getting on the board, a little more physical. I think that's a more than fair criticism, Diggum. Next up after that, Bennett Roth. Dubs learned from their inbounding struggles against the 76ers. Yes, they did. They got the ball in tonight, Bennett. Somehow, some way, they got the ball in. Although when that ball popped off of Guy Santos' hands, I think everybody's heart dropped, like thinking it was going to go out of bounds or go right to a Cav, and they were going to go the other way with a potential bucket. Let's do two more, and then our finale. Rebel to Sounds, Warriors deserve to win this game. Completely deserve to win this game. completely deserve to win this game. That if that's not the comment of the night, but that could be the comment of the night from Rebel to Sounds. All right, two more here before we get to our finale. And Gene, our buddy Gene, with a team of specialists, Kerr has a problem night in, night out. It's a different guy showing up. Hard to win games like this. Excellent point. And again, it's easier in some ways to just play all the guys at the back end of the roster as he's done. It's a lot harder to figure out who plays and who doesn't once you get everybody back. All right, let's get our comment of the night.
Now, time for the Dubs OT comment of the night.
LM, great win for the Dubs, but what is concerning for their season is that JK, Moody, and Pods continue to show that they are not the guys to help the veterans. JK, for sure. Moody, I'm not as down on, although he's been struggling lately. And Pajemski, I think, can get it back. So that's my quick, Kuminga's done. You're just trying to figure out ways to keep him on the court enough to be able to keep his value up. Pods, I think, has got a shot, but Moody will bounce back. Moody plays better when he's playing with those other guys. We don't need to play the thing tonight for fun with numbers. I know we're up against it. That's our comment of the night from LM. I'm just going to give you one. I mean, tonight is really all about Pat, Bleep, and Spencer. So the one nugget tonight in terms of fun with numbers is going to be Pat Spencer, career high. After equaling his career high, ends up with a career high 19 as the Warriors get the win to improve to 12-12 on the season. So that's going to do it. We're going to end it on that note. Cole LaPelt, appreciate you, brother. He's been in all week for Kyle Haar. We'll talk to you tomorrow right around 6:30, right when the Warriors go final against the Bulls. We'll be right here on the Sports Leader. For Ryan McCarthy, appreciate everybody. Been a fun day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Enjoy your Saturday night. Enjoy your football Sunday. And don't forget, we got a little Dubs basketball. And that means Dubs OT coming your way, 6:30 tomorrow, right here, as we'll be talking about it with Dubs OT on the Sports Leader. Warriors get a big win. We'll talk to you then.